Our next speaker is my colleague in putting together this symposium, Sibylle Becker-Kilian, who I've known for a few years, and I couldn't put this together without her help. Sibylle has been on a journey for over 30 years studying Hutterite architecture, how Hutterites have built, how they still build today. And this is like the culmination of her work. So we very much look forward to hear what she has to tell us about this.
So good afternoon. Yeah, I think he forgot to say that I'm an architect. So when I introduce myself being an architect, people think, yeah, well, I produce blueprints and I think about construction techniques and perhaps cutting edge materials. And of course, I struggle with exceeding budget. This is what I do. Yeah, but today I like to shift that perspective. I want to talk about architecture as something deeper, as a powerful form of cultural expression, because buildings endure, and they endure for centuries, and they tell us stories. So we are here in a very special location, the Habanski Dvor here in Velke, for example. It is more just a collection of building. It holds collective memory, and this is important for the identity of a society. And importantly, architecture is never ever about just one structure. It is about how those buildings relate to each other, how spaces are shared, and how people move through them, and how daily life is organized by the built environment. The Habanski Dvor, I will show later some slides, the arrangement of houses is around a communal courtyard. And this tells us about the values and the social structure of the people who once lived there. So that is an idea that there is a connection between space and community that caught my interest when I first visited a Hutterite colony about 30 years ago. And as a student standing under a wide open sky of North American prairie landscape, surrounded by a neat cluster of houses and barns, I found myself asking a very simple question. Are traces of their European origin still visible in the way Hutterites built their environment in their communities today? And that question stayed with me ever since. And that's a journey I like to take you on over the next 20 minutes. So we look at slide 2. Let's start in the 16th century until 1622. The Hutterites were tolerated here in this region, you know, Upper Hungary and Moravia. And at their peak, there were about 20,000 people live here and roughly in 60 communal settlements. And the Hutterites Chronicle, das kleine Geschichtsbuch, referred to this as die gute Zeit. And because of the skills of craftsmen, farmers, millers, and barders, and so on. And usually the settlement began with local nobles. They invited them, hoping to repopulate their villages after war or plague, and invited Hutterites to settle. A contract, a house brief, was outlining their rights and duties, and land was provided, usually with existing village. And here you see on the left Sobotiste and on the right Velke. And what stands out here is, instead of following the typical Straßendorf layout, in English you say street village layout, farmsteads along, you see this here, farmsteads along the main street on the left and right side. It's a very rigid pattern, bam, 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 bam. So the Hutterites did not follow this pattern. they just did something different. They created, you see the red arrow, they created compact self-contained courtyards beside the usual pattern known as Haushaben, entire social systems, protected shared spaces for work, worship, education, and so on. We look at slide 3. Everybody know this depiction, earliest depiction. I'm not interested in the couple. I'm interested in the house, because in the background, because this is a prototype of a Hutterite communal longhouse. It says in the sources it's a multifunctional house. On the ground floor, it has all the communal activities, and under the thatch roof are mostly 2 floors of the bedrooms, and lit by small openings. And what is quite advanced for this time was that roof. It was made of fire-resistant clay brick straw designed for safety and durability. And who was on the tour, you saw this longhouse in Alkinov, within this closed farmstead, in this courtyard with the communal buildings. And the most exciting find is here, the Norro longhouse, almost 60 meters long. It's another example, or the only remaining structure of a communal longhouse here in this area. And as Yeri Payer said, it's a clear example of distinct Hutterite architectural language, because it's completely unique for this region and for this period. And other slide here says it's a communal longhouse built in 1980 at Wolf Creek Colony. So what's fascinating here is that this concept of a multifunctional concept endured over centuries on continents, but still rooted in the same basic idea. So slide 4. We are now in Slovakia here, Velke, Levare. You can still walk through the courtyards, through the quiet communal courtyards today. This old photo shows the thatch roof on top, before they were replacing the tiles in the 1950s. So this is a publication about how populated was to use this thatch roof construction. It's a publication by Adam Landgraf, and this model shows how the reconstruction of this prototype of a longhouse, of a communal longhouse in the Museum of Sobotiste, showing what this longhouse likely looked like. So slide 5. So this is just for imagination. This may be the Stube, the living room, how it may have looked like in these days. This is the very steep stairs to the upstairs to the Ertel, to the bedroom. And the last is the floor plan of the Bernhaus, a house. We were able to visit this house about 2 years ago. What is special at this house, after the Hutterites have to converted being Catholic, they needed, or still kept, communal structures. So they needed larger room for gathering and work. So what you can see in the floor plan, that the ceiling span was so large that it required a central column for support here on the right-hand side. So it's not usual that you have such big spaces in a one-family house. So when we go to slide 6. So after 1622, they were persecuted and pushed further east. So we see here, after they could recover in Russia of the first or one of the first colonies in Radichev. And they built a new courtyard settlement. You see an enclosed, carefully planned, somehow kind of a courtyard with a large communal building in the middle. But already we know from the sources that there was a shift. Craft production declined, workshop shrank, and agriculture took over as the main livelihood. So later in Johannesroom on the right-hand side, which is one of the 5 settlements in Russia, based on the Mennonite village model with private property and marking the beginning of move away from traditional communal layouts. So I like to go to slide 7. So this is kind of a pull together what the several key elements are. This is the courtyard scheme, which is a defining feature of settlement layouts, the communal longhouse. They use local building material. And one thing, what is standing out, their daily lives were governed by detailed communal rules, die Gemeindeordnungen. About 30 of them are documented from this period, but there is no Ordnung for buildings. So they never formally codified architectural practices. So slide 8. So we are now in North America, very quickly. 1874, about 1,200 Hutterites, along with many Mennonites, founded the first colonies, Bonham, Wolf Creek, Old Elm Spring. So much like in Europe, they like to buy land with existing buildings, providing temporary housing and later use and adapting as needed. So Old Elm Spring, you see a special shape of the roof. We call it in German the Krüppelwalmdach. It means a clipped gable. It's a very European feature they used here everywhere. And then you see a demolishing, an actual demolishing 2025 of an old longhouse. So they still standing in North America and listed as historical document. So they have root cellars, like on the right-hand side, early communal structures in North America or in the Dakotas retain some European architectural influence, like root cellars, vaulted brick ceilings, and dirt floor. And a trace of old European technique suggests a degree of cultural identity in Hutterite construction practice. So the view into the courtyard of Old Elm Spring Colony. So you see that the courtyard concept still organizing the life and the settlements. So we go to slide 9. So they really grow. They had a population grow in the 1880s, and further immigration from led to a lot of colony division. They call it branching out. And this, they still remain the communal courtyard layout, but with growing emphasis on agriculture. There was kind of a shift from mixed use to functionally zoned settlement, marks a turning point in the development of settlement layout. But still remain these key elements still in the Dakota territories, the courtyard scheme, the communal longhouse, once mixed use, as I said, they called it the große Haus back in Europe. It was once mixed use with the workshops in the ground floor, but now they transformed only for multi-family dwellings, but they still have these communal buildings as the hut. This is the center of every community. And then the key turning point is a shift from mixed use to functional zoned settlements. This means that the traditional mixed-use model of European settlements, which had integrated living quarters and workshops, was gradually phased out in the Dakota territories as Hutterites transitioned to large-scale agricultural production. So to slide 10. So we're in Canada now. In this last section, I like you to walk with me through 2 generations of Hutterite colonies, James Valley, the mother colony, and Starlight, a daughter colony established in the 80s. So James Valley follows the classical courtyard plan homes on the east and west, and communal kitchen to the south, school and church to the west. So this is the first dwelling still standing in James Valley, even as home was modernized with plumbing and kitchen and so on. The sense of community prevailed. So the idea of home was communal, not private. So you see here the very, very, very simple ground floor plan of the first dwelling. You see in the layout that there is not much privacy in such a house. So in slide 11, when James Valley grow too large over for James Valley, is it over to 120 people, it often becomes too large to manage efficiently. It branched out. So the new colony Starlight, founded in the 80s, and you see something remarkable happened. The layout became circular. So 10 duplex formed a ring around the central communal building, and a circle is symbolizing equality. Every house has the same distance from the center, but of course it brought new challenges: wind protection, car access, unused land, and a lot of maintenance in this big circle in the inside landscape problems and everything. So Starlight homes, a shift in style, duplex houses replaced longhouses. Houses became, of course, more quiet, more private, and the interiors have more living space, even though families are now much smaller, but they have larger kitchens. From the old colony in James Valley with 5 square meters to almost 25 square meters for a kitchen, because this is only for preparing lunch, because they have the communal dining hall. And also on the floor plan, you see that they have now office and a sewing room. So they have now additional rooms for private use and growing individual comfort, of course. So we look at number 12. I just give you a glimpse into a church, freestanding church, which appeared breaking with the tradition of simple rooms inside the schoolhouses like they had in James Valley. Schools are still built outside the core of the colony to limit outside influence, but design quality is improving. And my favorite is the school in the Arcadia colony, because in this design is architecture now supports a better learning environment with a very profile design and using of colors, which is not usually. So when we go to 13, you see the aerial view of 2025. We go back now to James Valley, because of course they have to build more housing and more residential houses. But as you see, The kitchen is on the right-hand side. They had a fire in 2004 and they had to build a new kitchen. So compared to this old housing here, the kitchen is really huge. And you see that this rectangular courtyard, but the colonies have usually no master plan. They don't build for the future. They just add house to house to house. So then when they had to build addition, they just squeeze them somehow in. So you see this half circle of new triplexes. So they use now this type of a triplex. This means 3 units in one house. And you see the new triplex in James Valley, they just moved in from the public access here. You come from the street and you see they have 3 pathways leading to 3 units, so they will be never meeting the family neighbor. So they have really a private access to the houses. And this is with a porch. This is the triplex you see from the courtyard. And again, from the floor plan, you see plenty of space, plenty of private used space, which is, you can compare this with Starlight Colony. So I come to my conclusion. For nearly 500 years, Hutterite architecture has quietly expressed values of equality, humility, and simplicity. Every shared hallway, every central kitchen, and every courtyard layout has reflected a theology of togetherness. But architecture, as I said at the beginning, is a cultural expression. And with architecture, you also see very clearly where change begins. As homes grow more private, courtyards expand, and American design, which is focusing on single-family homes, enter through the back door. I found myself asking another question. Can a communal society survive if its architecture begins to emphasize individual space over shared collective spaces? Is this simply practical evolution, or are deeper values being forgotten along the way? Thank you very much.